welcome to Scorched Earth, excuse me, and a general reading for the sign of Virgo, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of May. I know these are a little late, thank you for waiting for me. Using the Llewellyn Tarot for you today. So, if the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. The link for that will be down in the description box. Obviously, if you support me on Patreon, you get access to all of that extended content for no extra cost. So, let's see what's going on with you. I've been having a bit of the Mercury retrograde blues today, and I'm wondering if it's perhaps something to do with your reading, Virgo, because it seems very, very much like now I've been trying to upload videos to Patreon and they're just you know, they keep stalling and whatnot, and there's various other technological things that are breaking down and all sorts. So it might be you specifically, or it might just be the energy really starting to ramp up, who knows. But let's have a look and see what's going on with you. So 3 cards for Virgo, please. We've got the Ace of Swords and the Lovers, kind of drifted out together there. I'm going to pop that there. Tell me about the current energy for Virgo, please. We have the 4 of Cups. And the 3 of Wands has fallen out to the right. And I don't usually take it, but given the way those last 2 fell out, I kind of want to put those in too. And what's coming towards Virgo, please? We have drifting out 8 of Swords. Right, don't panic, because here you are at the bottom of the deck. There's the Hermit. So there are answers this month that you're going to need to go within to access. It's not, these things aren't going to fall onto your lap, and they're not going to just appear in front of you, you know. We'll get to it, but I don't think it's a bad thing that the 8 of Swords is there. It just indicates that there is a bit of stuff to do. And, you know, my feeling that this Mercury retrograde blip that I was having was something distinctly related to Virgo might well prove to be very accurate in that respect. Tell me about this Lover's card and the Ace of Swords, please. We have, we have the Temperance card here. We have the 5 of Wands. And we also have the 9 of Cups. And so there's a lot of push-pull going on with you at the moment. Tell me about the 4 of Cups and the 3 of Wands. We have the Lover's card again. And we have the Page of Cups. I feel like we should get one more clarifying since there are double cards there on the table. We have the Magician in reverse. Can we see where this is going, Virgo? Tell me about the 8 of Swords. We have Judgment and the Wheel of Fortune. That's a combination of cards that kept coming out in a reading that I did last night for a personal client. It was like not just once, not just twice, but 3 times. And they were clarifying themselves, right? I'm like, okay, I get this. What about that? And I got the same 2 cards. And then I clarified again and I got the same 2 cards. Like, she was an earth sign as well, interestingly enough. We've got the Ace of Cups at the bottom of the deck. Oh, and there you are, just peeking out behind there. And the Death card. Straight from the off, Virgo, it looks like this month is going to be challenging. Not necessarily because of what is in front of you. I'm talking about, you know, your 3D concerns. But I think that they may be the catalyst, right? The agents of the universe's lesson, in whatever way it chooses to appear, is going to be different for each of you. But the underlying the underlying lesson that is attempting to be taught to you is exactly the same. And it is very much about pushing at, you know, the edges of one's brain here, right? Pushing at the comfort zone, because there is so much good stuff here. There's loads and loads of good stuff here. But then there is doubt behind it. There's loads and loads of doubt behind it. And that seems to be the thing. That even just now, like, I'm feeling that this is requiring you to break through. So the energy of the Mercury retrograde, which is kind of like going back to the drawing board, it's making sure that you've reflected properly, you know, that you've integrated all the lessons where they're supposed to be, and if there are any loose ends, kind of tie them up, which fit very, very well with the feeling that I'm getting off this straight away. So when we come to your recent past, we've got the Lover's card and we've got the Ace of Swords. Now this feels to me like the realization, with the 2 cards that are underneath there, that perhaps there is more work to be done, but that ultimately the only one who gets to choose what you do is you. Right? Now we can all feel like we're kind of trapped in circumstances and things like that, and you know, the reality of the situation is that we are very, very rarely absolutely trapped. What we mean when we're trapped is that we're not prepared to compromise on something else to do this thing, right? Now, for you, being that the Lover's card has come out twice, and then we have the Magician, which, you know, depending on how you read the cards, is a Virgo card in and of itself. What we've got you is standing squarely in your own way about what it is that you want, right? The Lover's card talks about harmony and coming together with things, but it also talks about decisions and choices. It's conscious co-creation. It's kind of looking at a blank slate and saying, this is what I'm going to create out of this. We've got the Ace of Swords there being this kind of light bulb moment that's coming on, like I am the one who needs to do all of the things, right? And that's a very, very positive state to be in, except that you do not feel, to me, like you're throwing yourself wholeheartedly into that. We've got the Temperance card, the Five of Wands, and the Nine of Cups underneath there. Now, were it just these two cards, then I would be like, brilliant, Virgo, something's happened here, and you've kind of, the light has come on, you've worked out what you have to do, and now you're moving forward to what it is that you want. But there's this big fat Five of Wands in the middle. There is the self-doubt, there is the conflict. You know, are things just a little bit too good at the moment? You know, does it all seem a little bit too easy? Possibly these are the things. And there's a sense here that what is happening is that rather than going with this realization that you've had, rather than going with this epiphany, you've gone, no, it's too simple. There's a trap here somewhere. I maybe don't know exactly what it is, but I can feel it coming. And it's very clear to me that this is past conditioning from you, right? Because there is nothing that you can't handle, Virgo. Like, you've handled everything, 100% hit rate on what you can handle up till now. And yes, you might be a bit tatty around the edges and you might have struggled a little bit, but nevertheless, you know, you're still here. And that says a lot. You know, we've got this Temperance card here, which speaks of healing, and it speaks of balance, and it speaks, you know, it speaks of the act of temperance in itself, you know, bringing things into a nice, you know, moderate state where we can kind of wiggle along the middle. But this conflict is getting between you and what it is that you actually want. And there's a sense of not feeling necessarily like you exactly deserve what it is that you actually want. Even though you've been on this incredible path of healing for quite a long time, what we've got is a situation where it's an internal resistance, and you're like, I'm just going to do something else, you know. It's almost like your mind is sort of swerving what it is that you're trying to deal with, because you know it's not just what's in front of you here. There's so much else. So much else. That's a disgusting sentence. There are so many other things that are sort of creeping around a little bit in the background. Now, I get this Five of Wands. There's Five of Wands. We've got the Five of Swords. Well, there's an indication there that your thinking is already off track. You know, it's conditioning. No, more than that, it's self-sabotage. Right? You are clearly in a state of absolute self-sabotage at the moment, and one wonders why. Because what you want is so tantalizingly close. Well, actually, that's the reason why, right? It's because it's so tantalizingly close. For some of you, it might be that you know, that fact of needing to compromise on something else, and maybe you don't feel like you can at this point. But the energy of the Mercury retrograde is absolutely, if nothing else, kind of looking and taking stock at things and making sure that you are thinking about things in the right way. Because you seem to have had a light bulb moment, but you also seem to be, like, with the other hand, trying to turn the light off. And there's this kind of like insane strobe effect going on, where your conscious mind is turning it on, your subconscious mind is turning it off, and you're like, Whew, I'm gonna have a fit. Thank you. There's the Temperance card again. You know, for some of you, perhaps you're not prepared to accept just how much you have healed. You know, sometimes that can be problematic, and you look at how you've healed, and perhaps sometimes when you've, you know, experienced really difficult things, and you notice yourself laughing, you notice yourself enjoying your life, you notice yourself getting excited for the future, you get struck with this incredible guilt that suddenly you're being disloyal to an old situation that made you very sad, you know, that broke your heart, broke your spirit in some ways. And so the healing is almost as problematic as the not healing, you know. I think it's interesting that the two shadow cards that we've got at the bottom of the deck here are the Hermit and the Ace of Cups. Right? It's very much about the exploration of the relationship that you hold with yourself. It's not about how you deal with the rest of the world. Like I said, that feels just like it's, you know, the different agents being sent by the universe for you to kind of learn this lesson. But when it comes down to it, it's kind of like retreat time. Now, where are you getting in your own way? Where are you standing in your own way? And like the cards that are underneath the shadow cards, the deeper shadow cards, if you will, speak even stronger to that, because we've got the Knight of Pentacles and we've got the Death card right there, right? So speaking to a personal transformation of you, perhaps even the way that you approach things, right? Maybe you're trying to deal with a practical matter at the moment and there's a way that you would always do this, but for some reason it's just not flowing in the way that you would like it to. But the other card that we've got underneath here is the Empress. Now this is all to do with abundance, right? I'm not necessarily talking about money, although absolutely that can be indicated. It's just an expression of energy, right? And when there's abundance of it, that's nice. I'm talking about true abundance. I'm talking about when you turn up, Virgo, and you know that you deserve whatever it is that you get, right? That you've worked for it. There's no reason, more importantly, why you shouldn't have it where somebody else should, right? I did this, I had these kind of, it's interesting that it was Taurus that these came out, because there's shades of this coming out in the Taurus reading too. I made specific reference to these, you know, parenting words, right? You should do this and you must do this and you ought to do this, you know, that are absolutely laden with the weight of expectation upon you. And for what? Like, so that you can align yourself with a very sick, toxic society that we live in at the moment. Like, I'm not sure that that's particularly a win, you know. Abundance is feeling happy in your skin, right? It is. It's feeling happy with your lot and happy with your skin and being open to more of those things coming in. And that's there. I can feel it. It's there. But for some reason, the way that you are thinking about it is stopping you from accepting it fully. And this comes down, like I said, to your relationship with yourself and what it is that's kind of creeping along underneath there. Kind of needs a little bit of a dig around. Now, when we move into your current energy, we've got those two cards. You know, that one that dropped, I wasn't sure whether to take it, so I picked it up and looked at it, and then I was like, it does, it fits together. We've got the Four of Cups and we've got the Three of Wands. Now, the Four of Cups can mean, like, all of tarot cards are completely multivalent, right? So you've got, well, actually, they mean whatever they mean to you at the point that you look to. But the received wisdom of the Four of Cups is that it is, you know, boredom, a sort of malaise that kicks in, you know. It can also be about rejection and the act of rejecting too. Abandonment issues, those kind of things, right? And we've got the Three of Wands. Now, those two cards together read to me that there's an underlying guilt here about the actions that you are taking forwards, right? Where you are going. Now, where the guilt is coming from, I'm not entirely sure, but it is surfacing at this point so that you are able to turn around and look at it, right? We're not interested in the guilt itself because I don't think guilt's a particularly useful emotion. It was quite interesting. I had somebody I know was having a very similar sort of, well, just absolutely racked with guilt about something, and I said, oh, guilt isn't useful to you, you know, you are a fire sign, go and do something about it. Like, don't just sit there and get up in your head about it, like go hit it head on, right? Well, that's how a fire sign should deal with these things. With an earth sign, it's kind of, for you, it's like going back to the basics. It's like, what is stopping you from building this foundation that earth signs like to build, right? Because the guilt is like, it's like bad mortar, you know? And so you can try and build something and it looks all right from the outside, but you just give it a hoof with your foot and it all falls over because there's nothing gluing it together, right? Because the mortar is bad. This is an opportunity to look at it while you're only 2 bricks high and go, yeah, that's not going to hold. That's not going to contain what I want it to by the time that I built whatever this thing is, right? Kind of sliding around with my metaphors here, right? But you know what I mean. It could be a fear that you will be rejected if it is what you do, if you do what you feel like you need to do. But it feels more like guilt. It feels like it's coming from a place of guilt. And the cards that we've got underneath here, we've got the Lover's card, the Page of Cups, and the Magician. Now, that Lover's card and that Magician are essentially cancelling each other out at this point, right? Because they have similar meanings. They both talk about manifestation, right? But the energy of the Lovers is more about the choices and the decisions that we make, right? So we're choosing to align with an energy that is showing up for us. I'll go, yes, I'm going that way, right? There we go. Kind of slide into the slipstream of whatever this energy is, and it takes us forwards, and it's mint, right? And there we get to manifest all sorts of things that are, part of our destiny and part of our path. And we've got this Page of Cups here, indicating that there is a change in the way that you emotionally show up for these things, right? For the better, right? We've talked about this a lot, Virgo, right? It is absolutely for the better. But then here comes this Magician, and he's upside down. This is a lack of faith in yourself, right? Because where this is about aligning with that energy, right? Like getting sucked into the slipstream and heading off. This Magician is all about what you want and what you feel capable of actually bringing forwards for yourself. When the Magician is in the upright, it's telling you that you have absolutely everything that you need, right? You don't need anything else. You've got all of the skills, the toolkit, everything is there. You just need to think about it a little bit differently and make sure that you're really certain about what you want. And then the world is your oyster, as I said before. The Magician is only bound by the limits of his own imagination. So the issue is not being sucked into the slipstream, because it's already there. The issue is being sucked into the slipstream and then suddenly have a crisis of conscience that you... crisis of confidence, rather. Let's get it right. A crisis of confidence that you're not doing what you should do and you're not in the right place. And what are you even doing, right? It's that point where... absolutely destroy this metaphor again, right? Where you're wanting to build something and you've got so many bricks up, and then you realize that although the blueprint's good and your bricks are good, the materials are sound in that way, like you don't know how to mix mortar. You don't know how to do it. And think, what's this? This might do. Let's just get some wet sand and we'll slap that in there. And then you're 2-3 courses of bricks up and you're like, it's not holding. I don't understand. It's like the essential bits of everything that you are trying to do are right, but the way that you are trying to do it, and one aspect of what you are trying to do here, is causing it's kind of compromising the entire structure there. I don't think I've destroyed this metaphor too much. I think I've kind of rolled with it nicely. And this is all about the way that you are feeling in here, right? There's a lack of alignment within you somewhere, hence why we have the Hermit and we have this Ace of Cups talking about, it coming back to you. It's Magician in reverse, please. We've got the Four of Pentacles. There is something that you are holding on to, Virgo, that needs to be released for you to get to this Nine of Cups. It's the second time the Nine of Cups has shown up for you, right? It's something on your mind. It's something that you wanted to do. It's something that's right for you, right? And these can be goals, hopes, dreams, wishes. Sometimes the Nine of Cups is called the wish card, right? But ultimately it's about your emotional well-being, right? I have to say the Nine of Pentacles is a good resource management, like your resources and how you manage them. But this would be good... which I've just noticed the Nine of Pentacles is sat directly underneath there. So Nine of Cups would be good emotional management. And so if there's a fly in the ointment, if there is something coming up, if there is that sense of resistance where you're like, a crisis of confidence of sorts, then this is a beautiful opportunity to fix that so that you can head to all of these beautiful cards. This Nine of Cups, this Nine of Wands, it's not a wand, it's a pentacle. It's a pentacle. Temperance, the Lovers. These are beautiful, beautiful cards. But what are you holding on to that you shouldn't be, right? What is surfacing now to say, fucking release me and let me go so that I can keep moving on? And I do feel like it comes back to guilt again. There's Oh my God. Yeah. Eight of Swords at the bottom of the deck. Two of Swords here. Now, this card I often refer to as willful ignorance, right? But I think that's a bit harsh. It makes it sound like you're just going like, nope, fuck this, I'm not paying any attention to it. And that's not really what it means. It's much more subtle than that. You know, Two of Swords there, if you've not seen it before. We've got a blindfolded woman who is sitting with her back to the ocean, her back to the moon, and she's holding two swords like this, right? So there's all of this watery energy. The moon is watery, the ocean is watery, right? There is emotion, there is intuition, there is all of those things, you know, possibly even, you know, the depths of your subconscious indicated by both of these two here. But then she's sitting there with these swords crossed over her lap and her eyes closed, and it's like, and she's literally got her back to everything. So it's like she's ignoring what all of her emotional stuff is trying to talk to her about, and she's just trying to concentrate on very, you know, logical, practical things with those two swords. And, you know, in the little story that in my head this card represents, you know, she's trying to choose between two swords that are effectively identical. There is no way to choose between them. They're identical. You know? But for whatever reason, she's not making the decision. Just like, no, just a little bit longer. I'm sure I'll find some sort of change between them. You know, one's a little bit heavier than the other one makes my wrist hurt a little bit. Like, there will be something. Whereas, if she took the blindfold off, if she turned around and looked at the sea, for some reason there is something contained within there that has already made the decision. It's just that she doesn't want to look at it yet. And so then we end up at kind of willful ignorance. It's not as harsh as it sounds, but it means that you know the answer, you just don't really want to go down there. Like when you say, I haven't got time to do this thing, and what you're saying actually is, I've got loads of time, I just don't want to compromise anything else that I'm doing. And we've got this Eight of Swords. What all of this is doing is it's kind of showing you that there is a way in which your mind is stuck, you know. And I started thinking down that road actually as soon as I saw that Eight of Swords, but I held off. But here it is, and you know, it's what's coming towards you in May as well. So let's talk about it now, right? It's showing you a way in which you are mentally restricting yourself. Now, sometimes the lesson of the Eight of Swords is that we are kind of just waiting for somebody to come and save us, right? We're just going to stand here and be this desperate maiden, you know. In this one here in the Llewellyn, right, she's looking like she's in a moderately perilous position, right? She's on those rocks and everything. But she's not tied tightly. She could wriggle free. From there, she could remove her blindfold, right? From there, she would be able to see where all of the swords are. She would be able to see the water, how deep it is, and whether she needs to swim or whether she can wade to safety, you know. And similarly, in this one here, she's even got her hands free, right? It's the way that we blind ourselves to what the answer actually is. And it might not be something that we like. It might not be something that we particularly, you know, we're going for, except that it's the one thing that's sitting between you and what it is that you actually want, right? It's all in the mind at this point. And to remove that blindfold and see the situation as it actually is, and to that, you know, to that end, what I'm talking about is your own self-sabotage, or what it is that you are holding on to that is deliberately stopping you from moving forwards, whether it's guilt or whether it's anything else. That's all that stands between you and fulfillment, you and maybe even life purpose, you know, something like that, because that's a very heavy set of energies to be working on you at this time. You know, it feels to me like you're being asked to level up really fast, right? Just get over this really, really fast, because there's something important for you to do on the other side. And this kind of feeling actually has been coming up from most of the signs that I've done so far, that there is either something big and it's right there and just like go for it, or there's something kind of sitting there and it's waiting on the other side of the door, but it takes you opening the door to allow it in, right? It's a parcel. It's not going to kind of grow legs and take itself into your living room and then unwrap itself for you. It's like it's been deposited there. It's on the other side of the door. You have to open the door, pick it up and bring it in before you get to see what is inside it, you know? But, like I said, all of the signs have been very, very similar. But I mean, one of the ways of looking at this is to be aware of just how much you judge yourself. You know, this Wheel of Fortune, and particularly in this deck, it always points me towards this idea of there being something that you need to learn, and you need to learn it right now, because it's something that helps the wheel turn, right? It helps everything kind of get in. We're talking about energy slipstreaming and stuff like that, right? It's one of the things that will kind of come along a bit like a deus ex machina and just kind of like hip shove you into where you are supposed to be. But you need to be up on your feet for that to happen. Otherwise you're just gonna, I don't know, you're just gonna get crushed by things that are coming along, right? I'm talking kind of abstracts, but this is about putting your head back in the game where it's supposed to be. You know, I'm going to pull another card for this because I'm super, super nosy. I mean, we are going to go to Vimeo and we'll pull this apart a little bit more. Tell me about this. We've got the Two of Cups, King of Swords and the Three of Cups, and the Death card at the bottom of the deck. So I feel for most of you, this is absolutely revolving around relationships, but it doesn't have to be romantic ones. It can be romantic, but it can also be other things. We could be talking about work colleagues. We could be talking about an expansion of a business that you run with someone else, right? That is going to need you to show up fully for it, but you're doubting yourself. You know, it could be a new set of people that you've met and now you're finding yourself kind of like, oh, I'm not as interesting as they are, and they're probably really bored of everything that I say, you know, and you're kind of looking for little, you know, micro suggestions of things to confirm what it is that you're feeling. Spooning all my words. It's Mercury retrograde energy, right? Spoonerizing everything. Because you're losing yourself in the subjective. That's what this is, right? You are losing yourself in the subjective, and the objective really needs to come to the fore. You know, you need to go from the Eight of Swords to the King of Swords, right? Understanding that you are kind of trapped and in your own head at the moment, and take the necessary and requisite steps to free your vision, free your arms and legs, and get yourself the fuck out of where you found yourself, or you have found yourself stuck. You know, we've got this Death card here, and it does talk about a transformation, and it could well be a transformation of circumstance, but I feel like it needs your input before it does that. The transformation ultimately is that of yourself. Again, I will bring you back to the fact that we have got this transformation of a relationship with yourself that is being asked of you during this time. It's not a time for, you know, huge leaps forward. It is time for making sure that you're, you know, when it is time to move forwards, you're doing it in the right way. This first bit of traffic I've seen here in ages. Helicopter. Interesting. You know, and thinking really logically and clearly about everything. I mean, for some of you, I mean, it's just an obvious thing, I would point that out. Some of you, it might be a relationship with an Aquarius that's kind of got you all up in your head about something. But honestly, it's going to be different for each of you, and it does feel like it's the way that you're turning up to relationships is kind of bound tight because there's something else going on here. And working out what that is and addressing it and then releasing it is allowing you to relax into something that it feels to me is coming for you, right? It just wants you to be in the best possible shape that you can be before it's going to turn up, right? And that, for you, like I said, involves just opening the door. Because you've fallen into self-sabotage mode, and there isn't really anything to justify it, not from what I'm seeing around here, right? I don't think there's ever really a justification for self-sabotage, actually, but it's more like, you know, there isn't actually anything wrong here. Like, why are you looking for things to be wrong? And more importantly, when you find yourself doing that, when you find yourself kind of worrying about something, getting anxious, and maybe getting critical or something like that, like just stop and start trying to trace back where this feeling is coming from, because something is being activated in you here. And the only purpose for it being activated at this point is so that you can see it for what it is and then move on from it, you know, process it, release it, let it go. Right, I'm going to go over to Vimeo now because I'm quite intrigued about this. There's a lot of really big energy you've got going on. So if you'd like to join me over there, like I said, the link is in the description box. If not, not to worry, no shade. I'll see you next time. Just be aware that the self-sabotage is something that you are, that your eye is being drawn to this month. So, you know, you don't need to kick yourself about it. You don't need to, you know, you don't need to start being all unpleasant with yourself. Just observe it with compassion, observe it kindly, and then let it go, you know? So, know that I love you all very, very much, and I will see you soon.